Hi, I'm Metta Spencer. Today we're going to the Caucasus, and it's a very interesting region of the world and in a way, troubling region of the world because there are so many countries that come up close to each other in the area and don't necessarily get along very well. At least there's been a history of conflict, and most recently, of course, there was a war between basically Armenia and Azerbaijan over the region called Nagorno-Karabakh. So we're going to be talking about the region, the Caucasus region today, and I'll introduce them starting with the one I've known the longest, Arzu Abdullaeva, who is in Baku. Arzu has invited me to meet some of her friends, and I already knew Shorina Lortke Panidze, who is in Tbilisi, Georgia.
Oh, Meta, thank you very much for inviting.
Ahmed Alili is in Baku. Mikhaila Mirziashvili, who is obviously also, I think obviously, because I see anybody with the name ending in Vili, and I say he's a Georgian. So hello, Mikhail.
Hello, Ms. Spencer. I'm in Tbilisi.
You're in Tbilisi. Yeah, that's right. Arzu, maybe it would be a good thing for you to start us off by describing the things that trouble you.
Thank you very much, Meta, and thank you very much to invite us to express our opinion on such complicated issue as the Karabakh War, which we didn't. I would say no. We try to prevent. We inform people. We alarmed that it could be done, but even to last minute, we didn't believe that it would be possible that war start. But
Really?
Unfortunately, it happened. So, and 44 days was war. And this war is absolutely different than was previous 30 years ago. I have to explain that Karabakh War has started 30 years ago when, unfortunately, our big neighbor Russia, push Armenia to cease the war with Azerbaijan, and it was a time when transnational companies started negotiation about the contract on oil, because Azerbaijan is country with producing of oil from Soviet times, and it was very interesting for transnational companies. And when Azerbaijan signed, and it means that Azerbaijan opened the doors for the West. So it was unpleasant for Russia, and Russia created new kind of politic against our region, against South Caucasus, and wage the conflict in Georgia and in Azerbaijan. In Georgia, it was internal war, and it was war with Abkhazians and Ossetians, but my Georgian colleagues, they will speak maybe more about it. I just speak about it in frame of what has happened 30 years ago. And Armenia, because of pushing Russia, occupied 20% of Azerbaijani lands. And after 30 years, we have second war because of the Karabakh and because Azerbaijan would like to take back the territories occupied by Armenia. And it is not only Karabakh, but it is 7 districts around Karabakh, which were occupied by Armenia, and they were deported around 700,000 of population from this region. Today, situation with this war is very close to the equation with many unknown. We try to answer.
May I interrupt you with a question that I think may
Yes.
occur to people? Now, you said 700,000 Azerbaijan citizens or Azerbaijan population that occupied the certain territories were expelled or had to become refugees. Is that correct? As a result of that last war,
Yes.
and they went back to Azerbaijan and have been there ever since. Is that the idea?
Yes, it was Azerbaijan territories,
Mhm.
7 Azerbaijan territories with 700,000 of Azerbaijani population of these districts were expelled and become the IDPs, internal displaced persons. It was very hard time for Azerbaijan because it means that every 10 or 11 was IDPs or refugees in Azerbaijan, because previously 200, more than 200 Azerbaijan population was deported from Armenia. But I have to be honest and say that around 300 of Armenians were deported from Azerbaijan too. So when the war started.
300,000 or 300?
Yes, 300,000 of Armenians from Azerbaijan were deported. But biggest part of some part of this were settled in Nagorno Karabakh, which is a part of Azerbaijan, but was occupied with these 7 districts. Now I just give the information. Maybe it's not very peaceful that what I said. It's just to be correct and to be understandable the situation, what is going now, and why Azerbaijan now went to the war. When I stopped to say wage the war, because as I said, the equation with many unknowns. Even today, we cannot answer who started war,
Yeah.
why it was possible, why it was the war, but not peaceful means. Sure,
But
we
no,
have the answers.
let me see if the outcome has been sort of to reverse the situation, that the Azerbaijan expatriates from those 7 regions of Nagorno-Karabakh had been located for some years now in Azerbaijan, and as a result of the war, which Azerbaijan won, they get to go back to the territories, and the Armenians who were living there go back to Armenia. Is that the outcome?
In these regions, in 7 districts around of Nagorno-Karabakh, there were no Armenians living, because it's the territories after the war 30 years ago were destroyed, these regions. Agdam or Kalbajar or other places were destroyed, and Armenian maybe lived in some small places, but not a lot of them. In Nagorno-Karabakh, yes, we cannot say the number, how many Armenians lived in Nagorno-Karabakh, but maybe it's some people say 40,000, some of them 50,000 lived in Nagorno-Karabakh. And when this 44 days war started, sure that biggest part of the population left their places, first of all, women and children and old people, and arrived to Armenia. When the agreement, 3 sides agreement, Russia, Armenia, and Azerbaijan, was signed, people and Russian peacekeepers were settled in part of Nagorno-Karabakh. The population start to come back, but maybe they are around 20,000, 25 no more than 30,000 that
So
they
these
are.
700,000 are not going to come back, or are
Yes.
you think eventually they will, or are they going to stay in Azerbaijan?
Yes, it's in Azerbaijan on Nagorno Karabakh, because Nagorno Karabakh never belonged to Armenia. They try to raise the irredentism to join Armenia, but it was not agreed. Even by Parliament of Armenia was not agreed. I mean, their appeal. So that's why Nagorno Karabakh just declared about the independent Republic of Nagorno Karabakh, which was not recognized by any of states.
Okay, now I'm still confused about these 700,000. These are the Azerbaijan people in the districts around Nagorno-Karabakh, these 7 districts, and they went to our Azerbaijan
Not
at
yet.
the end of the
Not,
war. But are they going to stay there, or are most of them going to come back to where they lived 30, 40 years ago?
no matter, they don't have opportunity now because it's only 100 days passed from the end of the war, after ceasefire, second ceasefire, but the territory is under the mines, so it has to be released from mines. But some people, even now, they died because of mine.
Landmines are on this territory.
Yes, landmines. Yeah, it's everywhere on the fields or even on cemeteries, on everywhere. So it has to work to release it, and only after that people can go back to this 7th district and to release some cities in Nagorno Karabakh. Shusha, for example, it was Azerbaijani town in Nagorno Karabakh, which is on the biggest, highest place in Nagorno Karabakh. Nagorno Karabakh, in translation, it is mountainous Karabakh. So we have big Karabakh and some part which is in mountains, mountainous Karabakh. And and Shusha, it is on the highest place in Nagorno Karabakh, was settled by Azerbaijanis. Now Shusha was given back, so but no one still can go from just people, citizen, to Nagorno Karabakh, but because it has to be create a new infrastructure, it was destroyed. But there are still settlements, and Armenian, they built the buildings there in Nagorno Karabakh, in Shusha, and in some another places too. But without reconciliation with Armenian population of Nagorno Karabakh, it is very difficult to imagine that it is possible to live secure and happy when your neighbors are angry and not satisfied and enemy.
Yeah, but I would ask just one small question, whether these landmines, they are left from the previous war 30 years ago, is it right? And another question might be, so what is, one of the conditions of this 3-party agreement, or one of the points was returning of Armenian population also to this region, so that the security of this population will be guaranteed by Russian peacekeeping forces. So that point I think is very important for this reconciliation process. And what is the position of civil society in Azerbaijan, and what is your kind of influence on decision-making process? That's these developments. That's very important, because it's very difficult to recover from the war. So we know that story in Georgia as well, and we had last war 11 years ago with Russia. And it was only 5 days war, but the influence and results and implications that were left is quite big and quite serious.
I was part of the group of international journalists and researchers who visited that lands right after the,
Oh, that's so interesting.
statement. Yeah. And the place is even, there is nothing else left. The people sometimes can recognize their homes by the walls, and there is one wall left and nothing else. Sometimes there is none else. Usually it was hard to drive around that place because you didn't know that you cannot find the place, the villages. Well, even like the people who used to live there, they were on our guides, like they would drive for us, they would be lost and we would use several times like to get across. Regarding landmines, there are places that are heavily landmined, the places are not that so heavily. So, but those line of contact and 20, 30 kilometers from that line of contact is quite heavily landmined. And what makes it harder for the landmining cleaning issue is that usually these are anti-personnel landmines and they are locally produced, and most of the parts they are replaced by plastics. So usually you would have, like in Soviet produced landmines, you would have some quite many metal parts that can be easily detected. But in this case, since it's locally produced, it's quite a plastic pack. That's what experts there told us. And we have seen a few, let's say, places where, the graves, this is quite a big issue for Azerbaijan about the cemeteries. Up there going to be replaced, and sometimes the stones are not there. So, that's quite a big issue. And IDPs, they used to live for 30 years to see their homes once more. And they come back and then look for their, like the flats, apartments, they cannot find that. And that creates additional frustration, which quite negative for the peace building in our region. And so I believe that's the first thing that is going to happen with the peace building. We have to make people believe in peace building once more, because the war damaged the idea of peace building significantly.
Excuse me, but when you talk about these IDPs, I'm still, excuse me for being a little confused. Are you talking about Azerbaijan and IDPs coming back, or are you talking about Armenians, or both?
Azerbaijanis. Okay, there used to be.
My question was also about Armenian.
Yeah, I'm going to explain to them.
Yes.
This is Nagorno-Karabakh is a small part in Karabakh, and Armenian Republic forces, they could control that small part and all surrounding regions around that. So Armenians, they used to be concentrated in that small pinnacle like that.
Mm-hmm.
So since there was this war, like the second Nagorno-Karabakh war, Azerbaijan army now controls all the surrounding regions and some portions from that Nagorno-Karabakh, which is mountainous Karabakh. Now, Azerbaijan IDPs from the first Nagorno-Karabakh war, they are mainly coming from the surrounding regions and a small portion from the Nagorno-Karabakh itself. So that's the 700, 800 people that Arzu Hanım told about. What the Armenian Shireen is talking, as a result of the second Nagorno-Karabakh, there used to be Armenians living in Hadrut and in the southern part of the Karabakh. They now are in Armenia. So that's why there is an issue that how we are going to bring those people back. So the idea is this trilateral document that was signed that states that all IDPs should be able to return to their initial place of residence. Armenians and Azerbaijanis. It was thought that Armenians, after some time, like 1 year, 2 years or something, they're going to come back to Hadrut, the southern part of the mountainous Karabakh, and Azerbaijanis would go back to the part of that right now under Russian peacekeeping forces. But since it is not possible right now because of many issues, you have to prepare these people to live together once more. This process, like was said, okay, we're going to do it gradually. But there is one big issue right now. The sides, conflicting sides, they start accusing each other in misbehaving. So not acting according to the agreed statements. But Azerbaijan is not happy that in this document that would say that Armenia is going to take out army personnel out of all of this region. And then, you know, that would be region will fully controlled by Russian peacekeeping forces. What happened, Armenia said that no, the document does not say anything about Nagorno-Karabakh Armenians. So we're going to skip this armed personnel in because they are Nagorno-Karabakh Armenians. They can carry weapons. And then there was one interesting incident after like 1 month after the end of the war, active phase of war. Azerbaijan captured like around 60-something some Armenian personnel, Armenian army personnel. And they are originally from Armenia, not from Nagorno-Karabakh. And by the time the documents would say that the Armenian armed forces is going to be withdrawn from the region in parallel with the Russian troops getting in. So now the biggest issue is that are they prisoners of war or diversants or terrorists that Azerbaijan name for them. So the issue is if Azerbaijan proves, and Azerbaijan, like there is a, like the, you know, there's a people that Azerbaijan has captured them. Azerbaijan shows proofs that these people came to this region after 26th of November. So we captured them in 10th of December. So that means that some Armenian army general ordered them to move into these territories, and we captured them. So this is a big issue right now.
Oh, I understand.
Yeah, and when Lavrov statement, there is a Lavrov statement, Russian Minister of Foreign Affairs statement on this issue, saying that they cannot ask Azerbaijan to return back those people because right after the ceasefire, Russian peacekeeping forces asked Azerbaijan for the list of the people that they want Armenia to return. Azerbaijan presented those lists, and Armenia presented those lists also. So Azerbaijan got back 14. Armenia got back, I believe, a bit more than 100. So that exchange took place. Then Armenia comes up with a new list saying that I have a new guys that Azerbaijan holding as prisoners. Azerbaijan is not happy about that, saying that these prisoners, I captured them, they are violating the agreement that we reached, and they killed civilian person. You know, right after that, Azerbaijan started like the building telecommunication you know, lines. There was the company personnel who used to build those lines for these territories. He was killed by these 67 people.
So Ahmed, you want very, very interesting information, and it's obvious that after this ceasefire, there will be this kind of issues, these kind of problems, these controversies, and actually, yeah, and maybe it's Misha. What do you think? So, I mean, a lot of familiar things for us. Yeah, I mean, and what do you think? So, what is the perspective of peace in the Caucasus, taking into consideration all those complications, difficulties? We are listening from our colleagues, and we know some of them from the press, from media, from different researches, from our friends. What is the perspective? So, and I think that, this is not the only conflict. We have a lot of internal conflicts, let's say, in our countries. In Georgia, current situation, this polarization, and very much overwhelmed. We are very much overwhelmed with our own problems, and that's not fair, because we should be worried about our neighbors.
Actually, it's quite interlinkage, these three countries, Armenia, Azerbaijan, Georgia. Not only because we have the friends in Armenia and Azerbaijan, but we have culturally quite interacting each other. To be more pragmatic, for Georgia, it was just quite dangerous, this war and escalation, because of the relation between these two countries. What we were afraid in Georgia, that there will be a human catastrophe on both sides, because it's the war in 21st century. It's rather different, even with the as already mentioned, with the war what was in 90s. In Karabakh, because of the weapons able to destroy it massively, and there was a situation when some weapons was reaching the places where there was no military and there was no fighting between the sides. In Azerbaijan it was Ganja, an example. To answer the question about the perspective, I the person who believes that all the conflicts should be resolved on the peaceful manner, but in the regional approach. Even we have to talking about a broader region like Eastern Partnership region, Eastern Europe region. Here we have the Ukraine, then here we have the Moldova. There are also the conflicts. And why I'm thinking that it should be resolved on the regional mode, because they have the linkage, and this linkage adds somehow goes to the the civilization issues. All these countries I mentioned, the South Caucasus, three countries, Ukraine, Moldova, we are the post-Soviet countries. And the countries who became the independent and free as a part of the European freedom, which starting in former Soviet Union with this transition to the democracy and openness. And then we got suddenly barriers inside of the territories. It was never, it was easy to travel from Azerbaijan to Armenia, during the Soviet period. And when we were expecting to open the borders, open this iron wall of the Soviet Union, then we got these borders inside of in Georgian case, we have like inside of Georgia. In Azerbaijani case, it's inside of Azerbaijan, and so on. And that's what. Sure.
When you use the word Caucasus, it seemed to me a moment ago you were including Moldova and Ukraine in the Caucasus, which is not what I assumed. Is that, I can see that you're saying there are linkages among them, but do you consider Ukraine part of the Caucasus?
No, definitely no, because it's not the Caucasus.
And nor is Moldova, right? Well, okay, tell me what is
Even Moldova. But when I was talking about broader region,
yeah, but what is the Caucasus? What countries would you say are the Caucasus? Because maybe that's something that never got
so
clarified.
I fall mostly because I said the South Caucasus, and I was mentioning the broader region, like Eastern Partnership region or Eastern Europe. So Eastern Partnership region comes from the EU's program to use neighborhood program, and it's focused on the 6 countries of the former Soviet Union. It's Moldova, Ukraine, Belarus, Georgia, Armenia, and Azerbaijan. And the focus of this Eastern Partnership is that and it comes from the EU, and it's to help to these countries to develop democracy and the free market economy, to say.
Okay, now, in one of the earlier conversations, there was a mention of the proposal, I believe, by Russia to have a partnership of some new kind among Caucasus countries, plus, I believe, Turkey, maybe Iran, maybe Armenia, if they wanted to, which is doubtful. But I'm not sure much about this, and maybe it's just a vague proposal, or maybe it's something very real and a real plan. But is that something that needs to be considered in the context of this discussion of the security issues in the Caucasus? And I don't know whom I'm asking this of, but I'm not sure even whether this proposal is a real thing, or it's just somebody fantasizing.
Maybe my Azerbaijani colleagues would comment on this. Here in Georgia, we've seen this proposal as a kind of construction to barrier the Western presidency in the region. That unfortunately we seen like this because what we have, as I mentioned, we have regional approach coming from EU that created this Eastern Partnership, which means not only relation with, an example, Georgia to EU or Azerbaijan to EU, but to develop the inter-regional relation between the 6 countries. The proposal to having 3+3, meaning 3 Azerbaijan, Armenia, Georgia, plus Turkey, Russia, and Iran, we consider that this kind of project that's opposed the EU's project.
Yeah, and also power imbalance, because on the one hand, we have regional powers in this setup, like Russia, Turkey, Iran, and Caucasus. I mean, regional powers, I mean, these stronger states with strong military, economic stance. So I think it's quite, I don't think that in that setup, at least Georgia will feel equal or feel, so well. So we very much back European, American, and Western presence in this any type of this kind of stand in the region and posture in the region. Yes, and
there are minimal goals for Azerbaijan when it talks about the regional platform, and the maximal goals, of course. The minimal goal is to make sure that Karabakh, the conflict is not going to come back once more. And that's supported by the society and by everybody else in Azerbaijan, and that the government is willing to do that also. So that's why the biggest thing is that all these last 30 years, Azerbaijan was all about economic and political isolation of Armenia. Now it wants Armenia to get fully integrated to the regional economy. First, it wants that, there is a saying that if you do more cooperation, if there is a more ways that the trade, there is a less chance for the war. That's universal truth. So that's why Azerbaijan wants to push for that. So that's why when it talks about the creating this platform, it talks about the creating this the platform where Armenia and Azerbaijan can cooperate easily. But then when you talk about the Armenian-Azerbaijan cooperation, you have to, because Georgia is there, and for many years, Georgia was the country where both Armenians and Azerbaijanis could unite. So you cannot ignore that. You want Georgia also, because if you do cooperation, Georgia would say that, hey, this is against me. You are uniting against me. So this is the real political issue. So you ask Georgia in. That's how Georgia comes in. But then, since Armenia has the biggest borders Armenia has, the one is with Azerbaijan, the other one is with Turkey. So you cannot ignore Turkey also, and especially in a moment when Azerbaijan is having a lot of trade, pipelines, the gas pipeline, the railways, etc. So you have to bring in Turkey also. So then it means that you brought in Turkey, but you didn't bring in. So Armenia would say that you brought in Azerbaijan is a strategic ally, but you did not bring in Armenia's strategic ally, which is Russia, right? So you go and ask Russia to come in and join to this union. And when you bring in Russia, there is like the three countries that borders the region, and they would say, Iran would say, hey, how come these two big countries can join into the regional platform, but you are ignoring me? So it is anti-Iranian platform. So you ask Iran also to join in. So that's the idea behind
You say Iran.
Iran, yes. Yeah. And that's the idea behind it. But it's not anti-Western from Azerbaijan perspective. Why? Because in Azerbaijan mind, President Aliyev, he makes so many anti-Russian messages during the war, after the war. It thinks that Azerbaijan believes that if Armenia gets free of Russia, it will not have, it will have less incentive to have war. So you have to make sure that Armenia has some economic relations to compensate Russian presence in its own economy. And that's the way when you open your borders and the Armenian borders with Turkey, you are creating opportunity for Armenia to gradually move away from, Russia and to the Euro-Atlantic Community Organization that Mr. Nikol Pashinyan promised. But he came to the power and said that we cannot, because Russia, we have quite a well-integrated economy with Russia. We cannot do that. And then Pashinyan, after coming to power, he made so many pro-Russian statements that nobody was expecting him to make, because he came to the power, realized how there is an interlinked the whole thing is. And he started.
I'm lost. Bashir, this guy you're speaking of now, I've lost. He is the head of what? And
Armenia.
Armenia is all right. And he came. Repeat the last sentence or two so I can get caught up.
Nikol Pashinyan promised that, he used to be from civil society.
Pashinyan. Okay, I got that. Okay, I thought you.
Yeah.
Okay.
Nikol Pashinyan, he came to the power in Armenia as a result of the Velvet Revolution in Armenia in 2018. And the major expectancy was that he is going to take Armenia toward the Euro-Atlantic community.
Now he's been ousted, right?
Not yet.
No? Okay. Onward. Thank you. I was lost.
Yeah,
Yeah,
but we
maybe,
don't know. We don't know
I
for
will
sure. The things that are happening in Armenia right now, it's hard question for me, frankly speaking, but he is in power right now. I mean, formally, he is the prime minister of Armenia right now. We don't know what is going to happen. So this is the platform that creates a perfect opportunity for Armenia also to be at least less pro-Russian. And this is something that is going to, and the friends from Georgia, we have talked about this. Their main concern is that Georgia shouldn't be part of the platform that with a country, they mean Russia, that occupied its lands, and that's right approach. The issue is Azerbaijan also, even like in previous years, Azerbaijan, there was only one thing Azerbaijan would support in all platforms, and that was the principle of territorial integrity. So it supported territorial integrity of Georgia, Ukraine, Moldova, everywhere. So that's why Azerbaijan understands that, and Azerbaijan would not move away from that principle. And so that's why it is Azerbaijan and Georgia, they should work out how they're going to, take out that obstacle, with that issue. And of course, like it's clear that there shouldn't be any compromise on that issue from Georgian side about that, that recognition should take place. So there is no objection from side. But of course, it's a detail. I'm not happy that when my Georgian friends say no like this, since from the beginning. I would love to say that let's talk about that. So this is the issue that we should talk about and move on. But usually takes a bit longer for me to explain my mind. But I hope the idea of platform, I explained the logic behind that platform and why it's important for us. Thank you.
Thank you. Well, now I think Arzu has to.
Yeah, I would like suggest to Sharena, because she didn't speak a lot. Maybe she would like say something on what's going on in Georgia, because regional security is very important for us. And I would like say something on what we are planning for a strategical issue on frame of region, wider region. But I apply to Sharena if she wants to say something.
Yeah, but before we do that, I'd like to ask you your response to what Ahmed said. Clearly, he's enthusiastic about what he's calling a platform. I didn't know it had that name, but is that a general position in Azerbaijan? Or do most people in Azerbaijan feel the way he does about it? And do you feel that way? And then we will ask Sharena to elaborate the Georgian point of view more.
Yeah. Okay. Sorry, Sharena.
No problem.
I support what did Ahmed said. What is going on now here in our region, and particular in Azerbaijan-Armenia relations, within Azerbaijan relations with Armenians from Nagorno-Karabakh, Russian peacekeeping. It's so complicated situation. It's very difficult in a few minutes to explain. It's really the questions that we always try to discuss and try to find out the answer and way out from the situation. What we spoke, and Misha said, and you asked, Ahmed said, about 3 of South Caucasian countries, Georgia, Armenia, and Azerbaijan, plus 3 our big neighbors, Iran, Russia, and Turkey. I would like to inform Meta that we were not the allies. I mean, Iran and Russia were not allied to Azerbaijan. Iran was in very good relations with Armenia. Russia supported Armenia, and not only supported, but pushed Armenia to seize Azerbaijani lands and provoke in Georgia territory. There is a place of Armenian minorities living in Georgia and Javakheti. So it's very dangerous place, time to time raised with nationalistic issues. Russia always use this issue against of Georgia, against of Azerbaijanis. Iran supported Armenia by gas pipeline, by in geopolitical frame. But Turkey was allied to Azerbaijan. And now it was a situation which could we continue as 30 years, because Minsk group of OSCE could not find the way out, because Russia didn't try to was meddling to put on the table some agreed plan for conflict resolution. We always raise up the issue that Russia interfered in negotiation between Armenia and Azerbaijan. The role of Russia in South Caucasus is very negative. So we try to raise up the issue of discussing of this behavior of Russia in UN, in Council of Europe, in OSCE. We always spoke that Russia's role in Minsk Group OSCE is very negative. And maybe we could not solve the issue of returning our territories back. We even could not to resist for new escalation of war, which could be done by Russia again with Armenia against Azerbaijan second time. But situation, geopolitical situation, regional situation changed, and Azerbaijan returned the lands. And it was possible because Turkey, as ally to Azerbaijan, stood next to Azerbaijan and standing next to Azerbaijan, saying, yeah, we ally, we will not give permission to attack Azerbaijan once again, and not to return Azerbaijani lands. And we spoke about the lands surrounded Nagorno-Karabakh, to return these lands and start to talk to Nagorno-Karabakh. So regional situation always was under the danger. A lot of provocations has happened in our history. Azerbaijan and Georgia are very good friends, very good neighbors to each other. Even against us, against this friendship, were attempt by Russia, some provocations to make the friends, and maybe not enemy, it is not possible between us, but maybe create some misunderstanding between us. And what is going today in Georgia, I feel that is something that is linking to external politics. And that's why I asked Sharena and Misha what they think about it, that if what is going on in Georgia is continuation of this Gavriliada, which was last year, and if it's really linking to external politics to interfere.
I think the main thing here, so what I was thinking, we know that there is Russia. I mean, this is obvious, and they're meddling and provocations and disinformation, propaganda we have in Georgia, in the region. And we know that Russia is provocative, and they try to push friends to fight with each other and so on. And my point here is how we in the South Caucasus, these countries, develop resilience against Russia's interference. I think that we should think about that. We know our politicians, our bureaucrats, they know that in these negotiations, like, for instance, the issue about border between Azerbaijan and Georgia. So this is an issue which is not solved, and it goes and goes. And that could be also very well used by Russia. And what should we do? What should our governments do, political forces, elites do, to develop this resilience in Azerbaijan, in Georgia? So I think that we should think about that. We should not allow our politicians to be manipulated, because we know that in conflict, so one of the advices is don't allow others to be manipulated if you don't want to go into the conflict. So I think that, but another thing is what are the cards of our political elites themselves? What are they playing? That's why there is another point. This is about the level of democracy. I mean, where we are now, is our policies and politics enough inclusive, pluralistic? Does it allow to have different points of view? What is the leverage of civil society in decision making? So I think this resilience, how to grow this resilience against third party interference and manipulation, and what is the level of democracy, and how we should nurture our democracies in the region, in each country. I think these 2 points are absolutely essential to think about that, because as for the strategic games and this was always, I mean, in the Caucasus, and not only, we know about great powers and big powers and regional powers and how they play games. So we are all small countries, and we need somehow to survive. And I think that this regional thing and cooperation, this is something our new elites should take lead of. I mean, that's absolutely essential. And from that perspective, what we are, yes.
I'm not hearing you. Are you saying you're supporting this new proposal that Ahmed and Arzu are so enthusiastic about? I'm surprised. I thought you would be opposing it.
No, I speak about different things. Actually, that proposal could be, other proposals could be discussed. I mean, this is my point. Okay, and that internal political democracy and decision making and the accountability, this is what we lack. And I think that there is the key. This is the key to resilience of our societies, to oppose internal meddling and develop ourselves. So that was my point. Not that I'm supporting something. No, I think all these proposals should be discussed openly. We don't want the citizens of these countries to have something which we are not informed about and we have no information about that. First of all, it should be a matter of discussion in the societies itself. So this is my point.
I'm not enthusiastic, but I see myself as a researcher in peace studies, and usually the conflict occurs when parties cannot understand each other's intention. So my point here, I just want to make it fully clear that Azerbaijan is thinking about the platform to Georgian friends and the other guys that is going to watch this video. So my duty here is to explain it as clear as possible. Probably I sound enthusiastic. Well, it sounds minded. But yeah, a few points about what Sharona said. She is absolutely right. And we should go back to those issues that she mentioned. That's a very important issue. But let me also explain a bit the thinking in Azerbaijan in that regard, so that is going to help my Georgian friends understand. So before moving with the issues, like the softer issues, you have to work with the harder issues. That's the Azerbaijan thinking for the last 30 years. So that's why Azerbaijan wants to get the security from Russia, Iran, Turkey, and just to have the in the bubble. So that's why there was a thinking that until the Nagorno-Karabakh conflict is not resolved, we cannot pay attention to. That's what was the idea sold to the general public, and now that's over. So you're absolutely right. We have to move on with the building democracy, having more contacts with each other, like thinking about the life of the people. That's quite important issues. And I believe that this regional platform issue, it's South Caucasus is one of those regions that has no regional security sub institutions. So we never thought that how Georgia, Azerbaijan, and Armenia can unite against that. So it's time to, okay, let's forget about the 3+3 platform, but let's come up with something new that can, all this cooperation opportunities that we missed in the 1990s. Now it's time to bring them back and to probably build this regional security infrastructure environment that can help us to move on. And under the chamber of that regional security, we can do a lot of work related to democracy, human rights, well-being of the people, and other issues that you mentioned.
Arzu, I'm going to give you the last word.
We have big tasks. Maybe we can ask you that maybe organize next time once again our conversation, because a lot of things that we have to share with each other. And I'm very, very satisfied by our conversation. The tasks that what we have on in Azerbaijan, we have to reconciliate. So we have to have the program of reconciliation. And if Armenians from Nagorno-Karabakh agree to reintegration with Azerbaijan, it's a big plan, economical perspectives and other for Armenians on Nagorno-Karabakh. But we have first to realize the plan of reconciliation. It's first. Sure that we need the reconciliation with Armenia. And for us, for three countries, for Georgia, for Armenia, Azerbaijan and Armenia, it's really a necessity. We really need it for our security, for prosperity. We need regional cooperation. And the potential for this we have, sure. The potential that, as Shorena said, that we together, we have to put on table some proposals, some plans, some algorithms, roadmaps, it's all what we can do. And she mentioned the democracy. It is very important. Democracy and human rights, it's what we have to achieve in our country, in Azerbaijan. It's what we have to achieve in the whole region. Georgia, time to time, in Georgia, the issue of democracy and the human rights achieved on good level. But again, unfortunately, some forces destroy in Armenia, destroy in Azerbaijan. So we have to cooperate to build really something that can help us to go forward. We need go forward to Europe, to EU, and there is the perspective too. If we would be smart, and if we will come to friendship, if we can reconcile and build our own South Caucasus society, so Turkey could be helpful, because Turkey is a way to West. Turkey is a member of NATO. NATO and EU.
Turkey is not a member of EU, and I don't think it's going to happen.
If to consider Turkey as the way to EU, EU, I mean geographically EU, and NATO, a member of NATO. So we can change some attitude to the issue which are on our minds.
You have just raised a topic that we haven't really addressed much here, this whole thing about getting closer to EU, and we need to come back to that another day. So perhaps we'll have another meeting along these lines and talk about that. Would that be okay? I think we're about through for today. Okay. Thank you so much for this. It's been very stimulating and I hope constructive. Bless you all.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, colleagues. Thank you. Bye.
Bye.